Hello everyone, my name is Michael McCann and welcome to this tutorial on rendering smoke in cycles without volumetrics. And this isn't necessarily a good replacement for Blender's smoke simulation if the smoke is an important part or the main focus of your scene. However, if you have multiple smoke simulations and none of which are the main focus, and it's the only thing keeping you from rendering in GPU, then maybe you'll find this helpful. So to start, I'll delete that default cube and then add a plane and tab into edit mode and rotate it on X 90 degrees. Now I'll jump over to my compositing window, and my compositing is set up a little differently. This is just how I prefer it, so yours will look different. I'm just going to unwrap this. Now I'll give it a new material, and instead of diffuse, I want to use ambient occlusion. And I'll mix this with a transparent shader. And for the factor, I'm going to add a noise texture, and then duplicate it with Shift D. And then mix these together, and the mix type I'm going to set to multiply, and take the factor all the way up. Now the first noise texture, I'm going to set the scale to 5.5 and take the detail all the way up. And the second one will be 2.5, and I'll take the detail all the way up on that as well. Now these need a mapping node and a texture coordinate node. Make sure that they're both plugged in. And then I'll add a converter color ramp to each one of these noise textures. Now this second noise texture is going to help define the shape of the smoke. So if I slide the black value up, it sort of cuts out some of those areas and shows more of that transparency. And I'm going to add a little bit of distortion to that first noise texture. And then this color ramp will affect the density of the smoke. But I like to add another marker in the middle and make it a little darker. And now the white will control those lighter values, and the black will control the density, or that alpha, and then the middle slider will sort of be a fine tuner for both. But I'll just tweak these values later, as they'll likely change after I add some lighting to the scene. So that's basically the main part of it, but we need to define the shape of the smoke now. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to duplicate that transparent shader and just mix it with that mix shader. And now we need a factor. And so we're going to have to create a texture for this. So I'll just go into GIMP. And my texture size is 2048 by 2048. And I'm just going to fill the whole texture with black. Now I'll switch over to my brush and choose white. And I'm just sort of outlining the general shape of the smoke. I'm not worried about any detail. So for this example, it's just going to be basic, like the type of smoke that would come from a chimney. And now I'm going to blur it with a Gaussian blur, and I'm going to set it really high to 400. Because in order for this to work, it needs really blurred out edges. So when you're done, just export your image. I already have one like this on my desktop that I'll be using. So I'm going to open up that image. And now we have the basic shape of our smoke. And because those edges were blurred out, they sort of work together with the alpha from the noise textures to create more of a smoky shape. If those edges were not blurred, you would really notice, and they would look very straight, and they wouldn't really blend in very well. So as you can see, I'm animating this by using the negative X rotation. The direction in which your plane is facing will affect this. So again, like mine is facing the front view. I rotated it on X 90 degrees. So I'm facing the y-axis. But you can see if I rotate this on Y, and I'm holding Shift to do this in smaller increments, you can see that it sort of rotates around. If I rotate this on Z, it sort of spins like a tornado, which is kind of cool. But in order to give it that rolling effect of smoke, I'm just using the negative X. And that gives it more of a natural smoke flow. Now I'm just adding a little bit of world lighting just to see what it looks like in the scene, and I can then adjust the color with that ambient occlusion shader to sort of match the background. So I'm just going to duplicate it and mix them together, and then give the second one a little bit of a blue color. And then I can mix the two with another noise texture. My first attempt at this, I think I added a translucent shader so that it would sort of react to any lights behind it, or the world lighting. But I think it created a lot of fireflies and a lot of noise, which is I was trying to avoid. So I just came up with mixing the two ambient occlusion shaders. Now I need to duplicate this transparent shader again. And now I'll add a gradient texture and hit Control T to add a mapping node. And then this will be the mix vector. Now I'll hit Control and Shift and left click so that I can see the effects of the gradient. I'm going to rotate this on negative 90 degrees and then just move it up enough so that the top of the plane is transparent, just in case your dissolve point is still in frame. You don't want it to just cut off, just like a straight line. You want it to sort of dissolve and become more transparent. Now I just opened up my dope sheet because we can start the animation process. I'm just going to tweak a couple of values first. So now I'll add my keyframe in with I, and then I'll go all the way up to frame 250, and then I will slide the X rotation in the negative value to about 130, I think I used in my first example. So add in that second keyframe. And then in the dope sheet, I'm going to type T and change the interpolation type to linear. And I actually thought that you would be able to change the extrapolation mode, but apparently I guess you can't for animating node values. So what that essentially means is that if you have a longer animation or a shorter animation, you'll have to recalculate the speed for that animation. So, but maybe there is a way and I just don't know. All I know is that clicking extrapolation mode and then choosing linear doesn't do anything. Okay, so now that this is animating, I like to sort of tweak those values again in the color ramp while I'm actually able to see it, and it sort of helps me to get the right effect that I want. But it looks pretty good. I think I want to brighten it up maybe a little bit. So once again, this definitely is not a complete replacement for the smoke simulation. But again, if it's something in your background and it's not in focus, or it's not the main part of the scene, or if you just have so many smoke simulations your computer can't handle it, or if it's the only thing stopping you from rendering in GPU, then it's kind of a cool and really easy setup. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.